Oh, Georgia, get it home way through. This old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind.
Hello, this is SCLC Today TV. I'm your host, Maynard Eaton, and of course, our president and CEO, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. Dr. Steele, the whole nation's watching Georgia. Georgia's on our mind with these twin Senate runoff races taking place right outside your front door.
Absolutely. It's very historical. We're very excited about it. In terms of the history of SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And we're 2 blocks from Ebenezer Baptist Church.
Right.
Well, Dr. King co-pastor with his father, Daddy King. And, man, I passed by there today, and just the spirit overwhelmed me in terms of the civil rights movement. And I've been in this thing a long time, but to see it come full circle. And many people forget the history, and we know that. They forget the struggle. They forget where we come from. And it's a thing called amnesia, and it just didn't happen just by waving a magic wand. People gave up the supreme sacrifice, their lives, in order for us to reach this point. And we understand, with my being in the position of Dr. King, the president and CEO of this great organization, and just talking to Dr. Bernard Lafayette this morning, we were just talking about, regardless of what takes place, don't ever forget about the kingdom philosophy and the 6 principles, the steps involved with where we are today. People need to go back to their history, not live their history, but know their history.
People need to go to vote, don't they? Will black votes determine who controls his Senate? Isn't that what's paramount here?
Absolutely. And I have to give credence to what President, or I should say, former Vice President and President-elect Biden, that actually gave full credit to the African-American community. But what we need to do now is to collaborate. Don't ever forget that one word, collaborate. And that's what's been missing from the wholeness and of the historical civil rights and modern day civil rights movement that we have. Not a moment like today, but a movement that comes up to today. If it wasn't for that particular aspect of the African-American life coming from Jim Crowism and the transatlantic African slave trade, you need to know that. And leading up to today and to the future. We are here, but we must have collaboration.
Speaking of the future, how important are these 2 races, these twin Senate races, for control of the Senate? It's really to determine the future of black folks, people of good faith, all that. I mean, this is a really important singular or twin elections, are they not?
Most significantly in terms of where we are and where we can be. But we can't get intoxicated with power like people in the past have done. And currently what we are experiencing with today's administration in terms of the Oval Office. People can very succinctly get caught up and get intoxicated like drinking a fifth of liquor without a chaser if we're not careful. You must understand you have a responsibility for those who are less fortunate than others to bring about a change. It doesn't matter who's in the Oval Office or who in the U.S. Senate or Congress to any degree. If we leave behind the memories and get amnesia and forget from which we have come and put on our best face and don't remember that we came from poverty. We came from slavery. African slave blood is what we're talking about. And we must understand that as we move forward.
Dr. Steele, that's a powerful statement you just made. Become intoxicated by power. As I recall you saying, perhaps we did that during the Barack Obama administration and then press him for change. I imagine you seeing, we won't do this under Joe Biden. We will press him for change. Am I reading you correctly here, sir?
Absolutely. And you heard me correctly. We can get so intoxicated that we become drunk in terms of celebratory type of emotion type of things and forget about the mission. The mission is whoever get in office, and we don't hold our elected officials, Republican, Democrat, or independent, or no party. Whoever's in office, I don't care Republican, just like the current administration, we need to have a summit on whoever's in office. That's where we miss the boat, and that's where we can collaborate and come together. Don't ever forget the Dixiecrats, which are Democrats, and Lyndon Baines, who was, in his own words, was a segregationist and a racist. But guess what? He is the president that brought about the signing of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and right after that, the next year, the 1965 Voter Rights Act. And guess what? It has been gutted, and that's a shame.
Does former Vice President Joe Biden winning the presidential election in Georgia signal a new day? Or, as a current president say, the election was stolen from him? President Trump says the election was stolen in Georgia. Others say we finally got over and won.
We won. And anyone can come out and say that you didn't do it right or you stole it. Where are the facts? What did Dr. King say in his 6 principles, Mr. Eden? He said, number one, out of all of the 6 principles, number one, he said, gather information. And after, see, you can't get around that. We got the information, and guess what has happened? We all, along with the news media and everybody else who has the focus point of what America stands for, to tell the truth, we have found the facts. And the facts to me is that President-elect, former Vice President Joe Biden won the election. It's over. And I remember when growing up, when we used to shoot marbles. Young folks don't do that anymore. We used to shoot marbles on the ground, and you know what I'm talking about, and draw a circle. And if I shoot my marbles and I keep knocking your marbles out of my circle, I get mad with you and I take my marbles home. The game is over.
Right, go home.
You go home and you own the marbles. And everybody else standing around, well, at least it's his marbles. We can't play no more. That's the mentality of this childish type of attitude that's coming from the Oval Office.
Where do you think we're going now? Again, you're a civil rights leader. We're based on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta, where Dr. King was. Well, this is not a local issue. This is not a Georgia issue. This is a national issue, is it not? It happens to be focused on Georgia right now, as I understand it. How do you see this?
It's actually an international issue.
Okay.
And the reason I see it because as I travel the world, and I have no reservation about telling the story that I traveled the world with my wife and others, and Dr. Bernard Lafayette and his wife, very extensively and purposely, so we can know what we're talking about. And throughout the world, there's not many countries I have not been in terms of my travel. I have not been to. And whenever and wherever I go, this is what we as fair-minded thinking Americans, not just African Americans, need to understand. That people mention to me very seriously and say, you in Dr. King's position, and we want you to know you got to keep hanging on and tell your fellow Americans, black, white, green, or blue, the fair-minded thinking aspect and the Christian element of doing what's right. If you all fall, we fall. The oppressed of the world fall. And dictatorially, we will become a dictatorship all over the world. I was told in Moscow, Russia, by Mikhail Gorbachev, we must be concerned about everybody now still, because we live in the global village. We're in a global society. What affects African Americans? What affects Caucasian, the ethnicity of all people who are of the one race. It's only one race, and that's the human race. And I was told that by Mikhail, former president of Russia, Mikhail Gorbachev, and got the proof to show it.
Finally, Dr. Steele, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but the strength of the black vote, the strength of the black vote, the strength of the civil rights movement got Joe Biden the election as our president. Will you call for a summit with him, with civil rights leaders? Do you think Dr. Joe Biden should have a summit with black elected officials and civil rights leaders like yourself?
Well, what he need to do, sometimes you don't need to call the whole troop of people together. I think, first of all, you can have problems because of protocols, somebody would feel hurt. I know I was at a meeting with President Barack Obama with my wife and Dr. Joseph Lowry, Reverend Al Shaw, and Mark Mario, president of the Urban League, and others. And, you have to be careful with that, which was a good meeting. But you need to go out of your way as president, as a man of commitment to doing what's right and respectability of leadership, to go out of your way and to call not just the group together, but everyone that you know stands in a position that you haven't seen for several years, but they're in position of the history of the civil rights movement, the aspect of the 1965 Voter Rights Bill, as well as the 1964 Public Accommodation Bill. You need to individualize them by calling them like you would call heads of states in other countries. We are heads of states in our organizations. And then you get their commitment to work with you because you know the influence that they have. And then at a given point, after you've gone out of your way with the big four or the big six, as they were called in Dr. Martin Luther King's time in the civil rights movement, when the president at the time, Lyndon B. Johnson, brought them to D.C. But he, first of all, communicated with them. Don't go up there cold turkey, because if you go there cold turkey, that's what you're going to get for dinner, a cold meal. We need to understand that. We need to be wound up before we get to the White House by the president himself.
Lastly, sir, today, as you sit here, are you feeling better than you were prior to Election Day about America, Black America?
I feel much better. I feel hope. I feel the aspect of a new day coming. It's a new day in terms of where we come from and where we are going. But I'm also saddened that we like to lost it. What are you talking about, Steele? We have like to have lost the fact that we are in economic terrorism territory. Can I say that again? Economic terrorism, which means the terroristical aspect of African Americans and people without the sustaining of the financial institutions in this country. We don't have access to capital. We, as African Americans and people of color, only receive 3% of the loans from the financial institutions in this country. And that's a shame. And that's a territorial type of situation where people are saying this is our turf and we're not going to include you. It's terroristic in terms of a person exploding violence in your community by not giving you access to capital, access to your entrepreneurship of building and developing your businesses. It is territorialistic where they don't want to include us. Oh, did I say enough, Mr. Eden, or do I need to go further?
Well, your dog in the background barking saying it's time to end the show. That's what he's saying.
That's my chihuahua. And you're not going to hurt your dog.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been SCLC. This has been my president, Dr. Charles Steele Jr. This has been SCLC Today TV, Georgia on my mind. See you next week.
Thank you.